Hello and welcome to another discussion about the Jane Eyre novel. In this section, the subject is about how masks are used to hide from the past, or as a way to avoid temptations. Jane isn't the only one to try and put a mask on who she really is, because St. John Rivers, who gives her shelter and charity, also seeks to put a layer of religious piety over his feelings. This act of Christian self-restraint makes it difficult to understand his true self. When Jane Eyre arrives at the Rivers cottage residence, her life has become completely washed away. She has no home, no food, no money, and just the clothes that she's wearing from the Thornfield Hall after she left. She also has no prospects of a job, although she is looking hard to get one so that she can have the life that she lived before. Even her name, by her own choosing, has been virtually dismissed. She has given herself the name Jane Elliot and wishes to not give any other information about her past. This mask of anonymity is actually rather thin because her first name, Jane, and the way she acts gives a lot away about her personality and her character. At first, the servant Hannah treats her from the start as the beggar that she has become. She seeks to protect the sisters Mary and Diana from having the house burglarized or worse, by refusing to help this starving girl that she meets at the door and has no idea who she might be. There's a possibility that she is working with others who will storm the house and then steal, if not murder, those who live in there. Her worry as to the girls in the form of Jane Eyre, as the readers know, might be part of a raiding party, and so there is less than the needed sympathy for this girl at the door. Considering the possibility of such a likely scenario, it is no wonder that Hannah fears to let the stranger inside. She does have a lot of merit for her behavior. There is a lot of reasoning for this lack of charity. With her trying to protect, all that Hannah can go on is first impressions about this total stranger in the late afternoon, coming out of nowhere and begging for assistance. Despite Jane's needy condition and eventual rescue, Jane Eyre becomes upset at Hannah because she was turned away. She fears about becoming another poor person begging on the streets, causing her to give a lecture. She chastises Hannah for thinking that those without money are not worthy of respect and probably are evil people. Without giving any examples, Jane says there are respectable people who don't have any money, that money or lack of it doesn't prove a person's value or goodness. Yet Jane has always been told this. Because of Jane being told that those who are poor are evil or will become evil, she wishes to dispel such a notion about herself. She sees herself as a good person, and lack of money or possessions shouldn't change that. In many respects, Jane wants to have her cake and eat it too when it comes to these new acquaintances knowing about her. She will tell nothing about who she is, where she came from, or what happened to her in the past. Yet on the other hand, she gets upset easily whenever a false notion of her is given to explain who she might be. She tells them nothing and yet expects them to guess of who she is, at least as a person. Any notion that she's less than an honorable person of moderate education makes her very upset. She insists that her beggarly condition is temporary, if only she could find some proper work to do. She won't say what she did in the past, but she will say what she's capable of and willing to do for employment. Her list of acceptable jobs includes a dressmaker, plain work woman, a servant, or a nurse girl. This indicates she doesn't mind working hard or doing something that is usually set aside for those who are in the lower classes. What she doesn't want is for people to look at her as if she was of the lowest rung of class, those who cannot make any money or make anything of themselves. She does not want to be poor, even though she had stated that those who are poor are still good people, or at least can be good people. Now, no matter how much she wishes to keep some kind of mystery about her, It is the little things that give everything away. From the very beginning, her way of speech indicates that there is some education from her past. This is immediately noticed by St. John, who believes she must have run away from some friends after an argument, and all she needs to do is be returned to that previous place. She only needs to be united with them in order to once again be in the position she was before running away as a beggar. The dress she was found wearing was dirty and in bad condition from wandering around. It wasn't, however, of such poor quality that a beggar would own such pieces of clothing and wear it around. Evidently, she may not be of a higher class, but that isn't to say that she comes from the lowest rung of society. When pushed to give more information about herself, one of the sisters, Diana, argues on behalf of Jane that she doesn't have to say anything about her past, and she can very much refuse. All such inquiries stop, but the speculation of St. John continues. Again, he believes that if he could learn who she is, then that would help him both learn how to trust her and perhaps return her to a previous situation. Now, as the authority of the household, St. John is a very devout Christian who has given up his own position in society and become a missionary. He is always busy going around the area and serving the country folk that he lives around. More than likely, he has met people similar to Jane Eyre before who have left their house and home to pursue a new life. Despite Jane wanting to appear as if washing away the past in order to have a whole new canvas, it is clear to St. John that there are smudges on her mask of anonymity. Her straightforwardness in how she talks, and giving hints such as that she went and taught at a boarding school of a religious nature, gives him an idea of who she might be as a personality. He sees in her many of his own qualities of disconnectedness from others and a need to be constantly on the move from place to place. They are both restless souls who are trying desperately to find some kind of peace with their inner turmoil. He sees in her many of his own qualities, many of his own wishes and hopes, although for totally different reasons. They both want to move from place to place and continue to be busy doing different things. Now, this doesn't bother him so much as makes him wonder how much to trust her with any responsibility. He has promised her that he will give her, or at least find her, a job adequate to help her to survive. That isn't to say she would not be good at the jobs that she would be given, but he is worried that it would only be a short time before she decides once again to leave it all behind and go find something else to do. A fear that she will leave makes St. John hesitant, helping her find work, particularly the teaching job he ends up offering her. He asks her to take up the start of a girls' school for the poor children of the area so that they might have the ability to gain a minimum education. He frets and worries that Jane not accept this job because she might, once again, skip out on it. At first, he's also worried about the small amount of money that it offers and that she will consider it not much better than being a beggar. But needing a job at all, she quickly accepts it. Now, it's obvious to him that this is exactly what Jane has done in the past, and most likely will eventually do again, take a job and then leave. Jane insists she will accept the job and not run off. He still doesn't trust her because of the little he does know about her personality, but he is glad that she accepts the teaching position, at least for that moment. He sends her down to the small cottage and then starts the job of teaching these children. Jane enjoys her time with teaching the children and gains some small amount of notoriety in the area as a good teacher. Now, St. John is a humble man of faith, but he uses his Christianity to mask feelings and his own past. He rarely talks about his upbringing, with his sisters and other acquaintances filling in any of the gaps. Apparently, He comes from a fairly well-to-do and respected family within the area. Because of some past circumstances and his own decision to become a missionary and parish priest, the kind of lifestyle he had the opportunity to live has been forsaken. Instead, he works among the poor and lower classes of the area in hopes of upbringing them from their level of poverty and ignorance. His own feelings of needing to wander, within a few months, he plans to leave and set up missionary work in India. There's a woman named Rosamond who belongs to the upper classes who is in love with St. John and seeks his attention. Jane notices this and tries to get the two together. One of her ways is to paint a small picture of the woman who she feels is very beautiful, and then she gives a copy of that to St. John in hopes he will take note. At first it seems to work. He exclaims how beautiful the woman is as he looks on this small picture. And also, he believes that it would be such a wonderful thing to fall in love with this charming individual. Jane is very excited at his reaction to this picture in the hopes that they will get married. But St. John has other plans. Suddenly he turns against the notion of loving this woman and exclaims that it could never happen. He has other things in his life that he would like to do. Yes, this moment of letting his feelings out felt good, but in the end, he doesn't live by emotion. Every decision and every move that he makes is based on the spirit and his intellect. His mind is there to smother the heart. He has this mask over his heart and his emotions, allowing him to decide intellectually what he should do with his life. Now, this faith and charity might be guiding principles for his life, but they are at the cost of his own personal humanity. Although far from a mean individual, he comes across as cold and unmoved like a statue. There is no penetrating this facade that he has erected. Jane Eyre's own facade has kept her, after the years of anonymity, from realizing what she has had for so long. She, of course, comes from a family that did not have a lot of money, and therefore, with her parents' death, lived with Mrs. Reed before going to a boarding school. The sisters Mary and Diana, soon after arriving at St. John's Place, leave to be a governess of more wealthy families. This has left St. John and Jane mostly alone to attend to the business of the girls' school. After several months, Jane made progress as a teacher, having again gained trust with the students and learning even to like some of them. A few have even learned enough that they might be able to continue on as great students, having gone above their disadvantages. Now, during this time, St. John continues to question and look into Jane's past, although it is uncertain what he really wants to do with this information. Perhaps he is simply curious about this mystery woman who has come into his life and started the school. Or yet, maybe he still doesn't fully trust her because of the missing past. Perhaps she will once again leave, and he wants to know what that possibility is, that she will stay or not. Whatever the reason, he ripped the edge of one of her drawing papers that happened to be lying around one day, and reads the name on it. When he researches the name, he found more than even Jane Eyre knew about her past. An uncle of Jane Eyre, who she didn't know existed, had recently died and left a fair amount of a fortune. The law involved with the will has put up notices in the paper looking for Jane Eyre in hopes of finding her. That was not all, because St. John, Mary, and Diana happened to be related to the Eyre family. The woman Jane, who ran away from a terrible relationship, and in the process lost love and fortune, suddenly finds herself with a family she never knew, and with her own large amount of money. The lost and lonely girl was on her way to having everything she ever wanted. Her hiding behind a mask to protect against a past she wanted to leave behind ironically came close to throwing away a past that would help realize her dreams. What she will now do with her fortune is very much up to her own control. Controlling her own life is one of the most important things that she had been searching for. The second thing she had been searching for is some kind of relationship between herself and people. And this she finds with St. John, Mary, and Diana. Her whole future is now opened up. The question is if she'll take that opportunity to actually achieve her goals. Finding long-lost relatives and a fortune might not be enough. Click the subscribe button and notification bell to not miss the next installments and analysis.